Hi, this is Eric from Longbox Review at longboxreview.wordpress.com.
Hey, comic book friends, this is Travis from Oddfellows Thoughts. You can follow along with me at YouTube, Oddfellows Thoughts.
Welcome to the show. Travis and I are here today to discuss a few various things. Travis, the tagline for the podcast is news, reviews, and discussion, and we're going to do a little bit of all that today.
Cool.
A little bit of news that I wanted to throw your way and get your thoughts, and Travis and I both wanted to talk about a couple event, more or less, stories that we're reading coming up. Let's see, we're going to talk about the death of the family in the Batman books, and also talk a little bit about Rotworld coming to an end as well.
Uh-huh.
And then after that, we're going to talk about the Emerald City Comicon 2013. Woohoo!
Yay!
That we'll both be attending. So this should come out on Wednesday, and the con starts on Friday, March 1st.
Yep.
So we'll be in beautiful, sunny Seattle.
Actually, the weather's been pretty nice every year we've been there.
Yeah, it has. Well, a little bit of rain sprinkling there, but yeah, for the most part, it's been really good. Of course,
like we're outside.
Yeah, exactly. But first, let's do a little bit of news discussion there, Travis.
Okay.
So, if anybody who's listened to the podcast recently, we did our best of 2012, and in that one of those episodes, Travis picked J.H. Williams III as best artist, wasn't it, Travis?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and as I recall, you said I made some comment about how you picked him last time that we did that, did the best of, and your reply was along the lines of pretty much if he keeps making comics, you'll choose him, right?
Right.
That was pretty much it, right?
Yep.
So you knew about this already, but the other day I ran across an article online about J.H. Williams III no longer doing the art on Batwoman.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Well, I knew it was going to happen. I mean, because he can't do two books, and of course he's doing the Sandman book this year. As a matter of fact, last week he tweeted saying that he has the first script in hand from Neil Gaiman, and so he's already started working on
excellent.
The layouts of the first issue of that. So he knew it was coming. It's a bummer. I mean, because the Batwoman book has been, so absolutely gorgeous and whatnot. So it'll be interesting. I'm really curious to see what happens going forward with the book. I mean, I still like the book. I like the character. I like the stories that they've told so far. Even without the art. I mean, the art just makes it easy to consume whatever story is being told because the art's so awesome. But it'll be curious. It'll be curious to see how that book does without people knowing that, okay, if this issue doesn't have, J.H. Williams III doing the artwork, I know in a couple more issues it will be him. So I'll keep reading until I get to, the good art again.
Precisely. Yeah.
I'll be curious to see how much of that there is. But I like the story they've been telling. I like the way they've been treating the characters and the secondary characters in our books. So we'll see. We'll see how much of that was me swayed by the art and how much of it is the actual writing that's involved. And the person who's taking over, Trevor McCarthy, isn't that his name, I think?
I was just trying to look that up. That's what I think.
He's been since the stuff with Amy Reeder that didn't work out. He's been the kind of the fill-in artist, the guy that does this stuff when JH isn't doing it. And I think it's fine. I especially now, the last issue that I remember him doing, he quit. The first couple issues that he did, he tried kind of aping J.H. Williams page layouts and whatnot. And then towards the end there, he's doing that, and he's basically doing the comic more his way, which I think is smart, instead of trying to, like I said, trying to ape J.H. Williams stuff, because then it just comes across as somebody who obviously isn't J.H. Williams trying to do it, and it isn't going to work. Doing his own kind of page layout, and I think it's going to be fine, because I think he's a good comic book artist. I mean, he's not the same as J.H. Williams by any means, but if he does his own thing with it, I think it'll be a good comic and still an enjoyable comic. But I mean, it's a bummer. It's a bummer not to get to see that and all the tricks that are done with J.H. Williams and the way it's colored by Dave Stewart and whatnot, I think it's all going to will be certainly missed, and it just will make me that much more quickly Jones for the Sandman comic to come out. I don't know when it comes out, late summer, I think, or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. Yeah, and you're right. It's Trevor McCarthy, and he's starting as the new ongoing artist with issue 18.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one thing you mentioned this already, but I was wondering about that as well. How many people are gonna? Okay, two things about Batwoman, and I had this thought about Batwoman before the New 52 relaunch of it, because J.H. Williams' art is awesome. I think a lot of people agree with that. You and I certainly do.
Mm-hmm.
But what about the story that was being told? If it was somebody else, artist-wise, telling that story, would Batwoman be as good as we think it is?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm quite honestly, I'm not so sure of that. The story is okay. There are certain elements of it that I really, really enjoy, and it's funny because all of the superhero type stuff, I really don't care for that. It's the personal moments that Williams and Hayden as writers I assume are putting into the book, with Kate Kane and her romantic interests and her relationship with her father, and then you get the father and Betty Kane, that situation. Those are the things I really enjoy and react to. It's the superhero definitely. Stuff is it's okay, but yeah. So if the focus is more on the superheroics, I think maybe the story is not as good. As opposed to the personal stuff, like I said.
But why? I don't think they'll venture away from the format they're doing right now, though, would they?
I'm not suggesting that they will.
Oh.
That's just kind of how I see the. I'm on board because I think the character is interesting, and I've come to enjoy those personal character moments more than the superhero stuff. So I hope they keep that in there. But really, it was to see Williams' art.
Oh yeah,
that's really the big draw for me. So I agree with you. Trevor McCarthy has done I think a bang up job filling in during those arcs that he did, and coming on as the ongoing artist. I think that's a good call on DC's part, keeping that quote unquote consistency to the book, because people may drop this now because Williams isn't going to be on there at all.
Right.
Or at least for, a good chunk of this year.
Yeah.
I wonder if he's going to come back after he's done with the Neil Gaiman work.
Well, he said that he didn't think that he was done. With doing art on the book. Mm-hmm. That he's definitely will continue to write it. He's not going to step away from that until they tear it away from him, basically. Mm-hmm. And that, he's looking forward, obviously, to stretching and doing something different, but at the same time, he has a lot invested in that character. Because he's virtually been the artist for that character for years now. He basically, him and Rudka back in Detective Comics, he's been the artist on that character. The two are almost synonymous right now, to a large degree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you mean the character and Williams?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I think so. I think right now they're pretty much one without the other, really, to a large degree.
Yeah. What's going to happen down the road? Because eventually Williams will stop writing Batwoman 2.
You think? Yeah.
So I wonder what will happen with that character, with that title, without Williams, basically driving that horse.
Yeah. Well, it's like anything else. Either some other writer will take it on and take her in another direction, doing different things that will be good and interesting, or it'll be one less New 52 comic, right?
That's right.
That's, it's like, I'm always curious about new characters, and she is basically relatively new in the grand scheme of the DC universe, even with the relaunches and stuff. How long does the character last past the first incarnation of it, and it survived Rudka stepping off the book, I think largely due to the fact of J.H. Williams' artwork initially. I do think that it's got enough good character moments to hold its own, but we'll see going forward, obviously. Without him being an artwork, where does the book go from here? Was the artwork the thing that kept it in decent sales? And now that the art is there, is it going to drop down to just the hardcore fans as opposed to the, wow, this is just, I'm buying this because it's a beautiful book. So.
Yeah, you mentioned sales. Now I'm wondering how much Batwoman sells.
I have no idea. Obviously, well enough, or it wouldn't be. It would be gone already, wouldn't it?
Well, Travis, I think we should take a look at that at some point, just to see, what books are being canceled because of low sales and what books are being kept on for various reasons, even though the sales are low. Because we don't know what the threshold is. Although it looks like
the threshold isn't the same for every book, too, obviously.
Right.
Because there were books that got canceled earlier that were outselling books that got canceled 3 or 4 months after the books that got canceled.
Yeah.
Vampire was outselling, Firestorm, Hawkman, and a lot of those books, and Vampire was canceled 2 months before the others were.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's interesting, from one perspective, just to kind of play that game and take a look at this stuff. I am seeing. I did it as you were talking. Just did a quick search online and found a website, comicbookrevolution.net. They have some sales figures here for a bunch of DC books, but it looks like they only have. This is information through August 2012, so I don't have any recent numbers, obviously, but it looks like it was, comics usually trend downward anyway from the initial stuff. So this is from when the New 52 launched through, so it's basically the first year of stuff. And it looks like Batwoman was selling at the end there after the first year about 40,000 units a month.
Mm-hmm. Around 20s where they start looking at axing you.
Yeah.
It seems.
So
14.
Looks like it's okay. Mm-hmm. Oh, it looks like just as a point of reference, Batgirl was about 45,000.
Mm-hmm.
So a little bit better. Anyway, I love how we speculate about the business of comics when we're not in the business and we don't know anything.
Clueless, yes.
But like I said, it's a fun exercise.
Sure.
All right. Any other thoughts on J.H. Williams coming off of Batwoman?
No. I mean, like I said, it would be a bummer if I didn't know he was going on to something else that I was really excited to see him doing.
Yeah. So is he an artist? Let's assume that not assume. Let's suppose that he is just leaving DC Comics in general. He's just going to go do something else. Is he an artist that you would follow no matter what he does or where he goes? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I'm buying whatever he's selling.
Yeah.
At this point. Yeah. Oh yeah. I would expect almost at some point he's going to change the style that he's currently working in.
Mm-hmm.
Just to keep it fresh for himself. I won't be surprised if Sandman comes out looking different than how the layouts have been for Batman, because the Batwoman motifs. I mean, the Batwoman layouts have had a certain motif to a lot of them. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of the same kind of design elements in each of the books. Not that it feels repetitive, just because it's that book, so it has those things to it. And I would assume that the Sandman one will have its own, whatever that is. So.
Yeah, I'm really curious what that is going to be. Because the Sandman was one of those books that really forced me to think about comic book art and how acceptable it was to have such different styles, even though it was the same book.
Right.
And it really that really did open my mind to, comic book art should be different, depending on the story that's being told, regardless mm-hmm. of the character and who else is involved in it. Mm-hmm. So I really liked that, and now I'm open to anything that comes along that I'm reading. So okay, let's move on, Travis. Then I have a tiny bit of Marvel news that I just wanted to bring up. Marvel recently released a teaser image. So they've got the Age of Ultron thing just starting, I think, or coming up really soon.
Coming up really soon.
Yeah. So that's the next thing, and then they also teased the new Infinity event, which I'm going to be all over that. I know you don't like events. We've talked about that before.
Yes.
But I'm a huge Thanos and the Infinity Gauntlet fan. If they had that Infinity Gauntlet series from, gosh, I don't remember when that was. I think it was the early 90s, if my memory serves, but it probably doesn't. So to have that all kind of come back.
Just to throw it out there to be the cynic in the group, of course they're throwing that out there because of the whole, movie stuff that's coming up that they're putting in.
Yes, I know.
It's not like the two don't tie together or anything. It's not like it's not like they're telling a story because they want to make an interesting comic book story. It has to do with movie sales. But whatever.
You know what though, Hickman's involved, so it doesn't matter to me whether it's movie related or not.
Drinks the Kool-Aid, that's fine.
So anyway, so you got the Age of Ultron. That's their next thing, their next event, if you will, and then it looks like the Summer Infinity. So Hickman and Chung, this is 2013 as well. So you got Age of Ultron, Infinity, and then this new thing here that I wanted to bring up, Marvel of the Dead, which is coming fall 2013. So I guess they're going to do Age of Ultron now. That'll be the spring event. And then Infinity will be their summer event, I'm guessing. And then they're going to do this other thing.
So every quarter they have to have an event.
I guess, yeah. And I hadn't really put that together until I started talking about it with you just now.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, they really have to do that? But anyway, of the Dead, so there's only this teaser image, and then there's a bit of speculation. So the teaser image, and you said you haven't seen that, right?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so it's just an image, black background, says Marvel, and then of the Dead, fall 2013 in red text on there. And then it looks very much like blood splatters, red blood splatters on the image. So, my first thought was, ugh, zombies.
Yeah.
Because of the Dead kind of calls up the whole George Romero zombie movies.
They've already done zombie stuff.
I know. So I don't get what this is. But then, I did a little bit of research before we got online to talk, Travis. And there is some speculation that George Romero may have something to do with this. So they're bringing... And that speculation is that the whole Marvel Zombies, I don't even know what you call it, that little thing that they do every once in a while,
right.
imprint or line, or I don't know
whatever it is.
I don't know what the hell it is. Yeah, it's just the zombie books that I never read and ignore completely.
Right.
So I think it was Newsarama. I saw this. Perhaps they're bringing that Marvel zombie universe, if you will, into the 616 universe. And so we have our Marvel people fighting against their zombie.
No, that's gonna wreck every book. You just know it.
Oh yeah.
Oh jeez. I mean, at least the Age of Ultron thing. It looks like I can read the books that I want to read without it, hopefully, too dramatically affecting them. Mm-hmm. They've got a separate issue that's an Age of Ultron, whatever, and I can just hopefully blindly ignore it as I go forward. Because you think that they can't have another event that will be a universe changing event in the same way that like Avengers versus X-Men kind of turned everything on its ear. They can't do one of those every quarter, right?
Well, it looks like they may be trying to.
Oh. I mean, wasn't there some implication in that the Dead thing that they're gonna off somebody, or was it the Age of Ultron they're gonna off somebody? They've implied that someone's gonna Age of Ultron.
Yes, that's what I've heard too. That someone's gonna die.
Yeah, it's the Marvel universe.
Well, they did kill someone major in Avengers versus X-Men. So, but if that's their new thing, that every new event is somebody big in the Marvel universe is going to die, that they just need to stop that right now.
Yeah. Well, what's the obsession with people? I don't know. There's a segment of the comic book reading population that is into having somebody off, just not their favorite character, but want to see something. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. Death in comics, that's and we make jokes about it because nobody really dies, right? But that aside,
well, I don't know. Some characters. I mean, yeah, they ultimately come back, but some of them are gone for a significant period of time before they come back.
Sure, but in the end they come back. So what's the point, right? But
I guess depending on how they come back.
Well, okay, sure, but I don't. Death in comics should come from a good storytelling standpoint, not an event. Oh, let's kill Captain America.
That'll be released. That will be released in spoilers 2 days in advance of the comic book on Newsweek before the fans actually get to read the damn book.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And we're picking on Marvel, but DC is just as bad.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, there's no doubt.
Although I will. It seems like Marvel does it a little more, maybe, or maybe just talks about it louder. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's the fall.
Well, I have no interest in that whatsoever. beyond it being an event book, which of course we all have heard how much I rant about how much I don't like event stuff. That nothing about that image or what you're saying about it, or what the rumors are about it. None of that appeals to me at all.
Yeah.
On that dead thing.
Though, so yes, I agree with that completely, Travis. But then again, remember when we were talking about the new Dead Guardians from Vertigo?
Uh-huh.
And I remember when that was first announced, and I went, ugh, zombies.
Yeah. Other than where it was, the setting was what made me decide to get it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I did take that chance because of the setting, and it turned out to be, I think, my favorite miniseries.
Okay, yeah, you picked it, yeah. But so this is the Marvel universe, though. This isn't. It's
not a self-contained universe. Yeah.
Right.
Well, you know what I mean with it being in Vertigo.
Yes, but that's what I'm saying is. So there's a huge difference right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm zombie. Thor, God of Thunder. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, enough on zombies at Marvel. Marvel zombies. Whoops. Okay. Going from one what the heck type thing to another, going back to DC. Did you hear, Travis, that Larfleeze from the Green Lantern series is getting his own ongoing?
Yeah. What the new 52 is that about? Yeah.
So Larfleeze is in. He's the backup story in Threshold right now.
Are you reading that?
And well, I'm pretty much any. Well, I won't say that. I did decide to give that a try because it was Giffen doing space opera.
Uh-huh.
And so I'm like, okay, I'll try it out.
That's snoring.
Yeah, I was really disappointed with that, but I read the Larfleeze thing and I went, oh really? They're just going to play up the one joke aspect of the character.
Yeah, and he's getting his own series to do that.
And he's getting his own series. I'm like, what? And if it were, I guess, some other creative team behind it, I might think that there's something to it.
Who is the
But
creative
it's the
team?
same exact creative team. It's Keith Giffen writing it, and Scott Collins doing the art. And if what I'm seeing in Threshold so far, and I think issue 2 has come out.
No idea.
Oh, so you're not getting that, huh?
I got issue 1, and I pre-ordered issue 1, and it wasn't the comic that I thought I was getting when it actually came out.
Oh yeah.
And I was not happy with the fact that it was more seemingly tied into Green Lantern-ish kind of things, which I don't have an interest in. So no, I'm not getting past issue 1.
So issue 2 did come out this month.
Uh-huh.
This month being February, and I haven't read it. It's in my pile to read, but it's certainly not at the top of the stack. So,
well, I'll give Giffen this. He can write funny stuff.
Oh
And
yeah.
so him having a whole comic to play with the character might be fun for a while. I mean, I always got a kick out of, they're funny characters that he does, like Ambush Bug and whatnot. I've always loved his Ambush Bug. But I like the character Ambush Bug. I don't know if I'm that excited by Larfleeze because he, to me, feels very one-dimensional. Very.
And I would agree with that in general, except that the little bit where Jeff Johns was writing him in Green Lantern, he added a bit of depth to the character, but he's very much a secondary character. He's a supporting character. He's not. I don't see how this guy can be helming his own ongoing.
Is this a mini series and they're just not calling it that? We'll keep writing it for as long as people buy it. If people don't buy it, then it's ended right away. So we just make these little, Team Sevens and Sword of Sorcery and stuff like that.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
They're just not going to say it's finite now. They're just going to put out a title, and if it works, they're going to go with it. If it doesn't work, they cancel it. That's fine. They go on to something else because they've got, this huge universe and all these characters that they can recycle and do different things with. And so now instead of just going, this is a miniseries. Katana, it's a miniseries. No, it's Katana. It's an ongoing until such time sales say that it's not, and then, then we're just going to be done with it.
Well,
or whatever else, whatever other title, not just Katana.
Yeah. I'm glad you bring that up, though. So let's talk about that for a second. So what is it about calling something an ongoing versus calling it a miniseries? Do you think, from a sales standpoint, do you think that the companies, DC, let's just talk about DC. Although Marvel does this too, something that'll start out as a mini and then becomes an ongoing and then is ended. Right. I'm thinking of Alpha Flight there.
Yeah, before it started, yeah.
So what do you think? What do you think the company's point of view is on that? Do you think that they say it's an ongoing that will have better sales somehow, or what?
Possibly, because I think it depends on who you're talking to and the collector mentality that gets involved. Not just I'm interested in reading a good book. If it's a good book, I'll start reading it. If it's not, I don't read it. But the collector mentality of it. If it's a mini series, I don't know that in some ways some people are going to be invested in it because I know I can collect the whole thing because I'm a collector and a completist. So I can't just have issue 1 of a mini series or 2 issues of it. I'll just get all 6 of the issues. Or if it ends up not being very good, it doesn't take that much more for me to buy the rest of it and have the whole collection for my quote unquote collection.
Sure.
And a certain amount of people aren't going to get it at all if it's called a miniseries because I'll just pick the whole thing up and trade and read it all at once. Whereas if it's an ongoing, I may want to collect every issue as opposed to say, wait on trades. I don't know how they make that determination and the language that's there and what. I think sales of ongoings are better than sales of minis though as a whole.
So here we go into our discussion about sales. So,
I know.
but you bring up a good point. I want to take a look at that because I think at a gut level, that's what I think is going on here. Although I would, just from my personal collecting standpoint, I'm more likely to try a new book out if it is a miniseries than an ongoing. And they could turn it into an ongoing. And
that's what I think they should do. I think they should be telling us, hey, we're going to put out this miniseries, and if it's it's going to be 4 issues or 6 issues, whatever, to tell this initial story. If sales are good and people are excited and interested in it, we'll go forward with it. If it's 6 issues, by issue 4, they should have an understanding of whether it's going to be something that people are going to be interested in or not, and then go on with it, kind of a thing. To me as a consumer, that would make me happy, because I guess I'm more the kind of thing that I end up finishing out most miniseries, unless they're really bad or expensive.
Yeah.
If it's going to be 4 or 6 issues, if 2 issues in, I go, oh, this really isn't my cup of tea per se. I inevitably end up getting the rest of it just to see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, me too.
But if it's an ongoing, and I know it's just going to go on and on, assuming, the assumption is 2 issues in, if I'm not liking it, I'm done. I'm not gonna hold out for those last couple issues or whatever. I'm done. So
yeah.
I don't know.
But it is an interesting strategy, I'll call it, that DC's doing right now, where basically they're just throwing crap at the wall to see what sticks with us fans, right?
They're keeping 52 books out there, and if this doesn't work, they're going to move on to something else. And you know what? I'm okay with that.
Yeah, me too.
With that practice,
And we are getting we're picking on Threshold a little bit, but at least it's something a little different. It's space opera-esque, even though there are superhero type elements in it. But it's not it's not on Earth. It's not the usual story superhero stories that we see month in and month out from the Batman books, the Superman books, or whatever.
My problem with that comic is it didn't feel in space to me.
Despite all the aliens running around, I guess that doesn't really matter because we got aliens running around on Earth too.
Those are just people. Those are just people that look different. What about them made them alien? Mm-hmm. What about those people that were all there made them alien? What about their reaction and the way they were made them any different than people on Earth? That story could have been planned on Earth, and people are so sucked into reality TV here on Earth. How is that story? What makes it space? What makes it alien? What makes nothing about that story made me go, ooh, wow, I feel like I'm, on a different planet dealing with different things. No, it's the same. I don't know.
But you could make that criticism about science fiction in general, because the stories that are told through science fiction are told through the lens of humanity. So even though something is an alien, it's still either seen through the eyes of or told through the narrative viewpoint of a human being. So that we need to have some sort of connection to the character.
Sure, but still there was nothing. When I first heard about this book, I had the understanding that it was going to reintroduce the characters that we've seen in the past that are part of DC's huge catalog.
Sure.
That were people who were space people, so you're going to get the Adam Stranges and all that sort of stuff. No, instead we get an introduction to a character that they first introduce in a throwaway Green Lantern annual, and so he's got kind of a weird connection to that and whatnot, and it's the whole thing's based on a reality TV show.
Well, okay, so I just want to correct you on that. We did get some of the space characters from DC's past in there, besides this new character. So,
yeah, I guess
they're there. They're just not a major player yet in the story, because for some reason Giffen decided to tell this Green Lantern story, right? Ex Green Lantern story. So,
because we need more of that.
Yeah. Yes, of course. All right. So we both thumbs down on Larfleeze, right? Is that what I'm getting?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
It has a lantern and a ring. Oh, yes.
Oh, come on. You love the lantern ring thing. You just like to be contrary.
You're right. I do.
All right. One more news item, and then we're going to talk some comics.
Okay.
I first saw this. It's a weird introduction to this to me. I actually downloaded an episode of Word Balloon, and he had a interview with someone involved with this thing, but I hadn't listened to that yet. So my first real introduction to this topic was through a tweet from Mark Waid, who said, "Hey, there's this really cool thing about comics." Gender Through Comic Books is the name of the course, and it's one of those free online courses that you can take, and this is through the Canvas network. So if you go to canvas.net and search for their courses. Anyway, so this is Gender Through Comics. It's a super MOOC, MOOC, which is a massive open online course. So it's coming spring this year, 2013. And I'm just reading from the course description from the site, that examines how comic books can be used to explore questions of gender identity, stereotypes, and roles. It's led by Christina Blanche of Ball State University, and uses a study of comic books incorporating highly interactive video lectures, online discussions between students, real-time socially driven interviews. Let's see, they're going to have Terry Moore, Brian K. Vaughan, Mark Waid, and others to address questions of gender representations and constructions involving both men and women. So Mark Waid was on there basically telling everybody that follows him and all the people that he works with, let's get the news out there. Let's get a discussion going about gender through comic books. So I thought that was really interesting. I actually enrolled in the course and am looking forward to what exactly this thing is. Have you ever done any of those free online courses, whether it's through Canvas or other places?
No.
I did try. Coursera is the other one. I did try a course of that, trying to learn Python, and I wasn't quite ready for that, so I actually dropped that one. But it's really it's an interesting way of educating, I guess, whatever the topic is. But
that's an interesting topic for them to be addressing.
Exactly. I imagine that they call it a super MOOC. I imagine it will be, especially with the create or the people that are involved, like Mark Waid,
for sure,
out there pushing it. But just those three names: Terry Moore, Brian K. Vaughan, Mark Waid, and I know there are others that are involved too that Mark Waid mentioned in the course of his tweets about this. So I'm really curious what this is going to be, and how many people are going to be involved and what the discussion is going to be. So I'm really looking forward to this.
I think it's fascinating because I think it's questionable on how well that topic is addressed in comic books in reality. I mean,
exactly.
So plenty of discussion. When is somebody going to act? I guess it's what I'm thinking. It's like, I may have to jump in on that.
Yeah. I was hoping that you would, so that we could talk about it on a future podcast. So
okay.
All right. Any other thoughts on that, Travis?
On that subject?
Yeah.
I don't know. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see. Like I said, for me, it seems to me like that topic of conversation is a good topic of conversation. Mm-hmm. And we talk about it a lot. I just want to know when someone's going to actually start executing it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's a bit of the news. So let's go to some reviews, Travis.
Cool.
What do you want to talk about first, Rotworld or Death of the Family?
I don't care. Whichever one.
Let's do Rotworld.
Okay. Good old Rotworld.
So I have read up to issue 17 in both Swamp Thing and Animal Man.
Uh-huh. Same here.
Same. Okay, good. So I believe issue 18 is the end of the Rotworld. I'll call it an event.
Yeah, that's the solicitations anyway. It says that it's actually the end of the thing.
Yeah. So we are jumping the gun just a little bit. But Travis and I were talking before we started recording the show about this, and we were gonna not talk about this, but then I decided, because of something that you said, Travis, about it, we should just go ahead and do that. But let's just just talk in general terms at first. How are you liking Rotworld?
I've really been enjoying it. I mean, part of me, as I'm reading it, as it's gone along, I keep thinking, man, what are these characters going to do after this is all done? What kind of story are you going to tell after this? Because it feels like, 99% of this of these books up until this point have been about this. Certainly, the Swamp Thing, I think, has pretty much been, except for the first issue, has been 100% this story in some sense or another. It seems to me like. Put the right characters in place to have this whole Rotworld event and whatnot.
Yeah, and everything at the beginning was leading up to it.
Right, and Animal Man, first couple of issues, but it pretty well quickly shifted gears to play into that also. And so part of me is, like I said, as I'm reading this, I've been kind of like, ooh, what is this? What are they going to tell for stories after this is all said and done? But the actual Rotworld itself, I've been enjoying it. It's interesting. It's amusing to see, what this future future devastated world, looks like, and allows you the opportunity to show things like zombie flashes and the Teen Titans getting tore up and fun stuff like that. So I've enjoyed it from that standpoint. It seems like I was talking with Ethan, my son that reads my comics along with me and other stuff. Talking with him about it and about how when these things first started out, it was really scary, kind of, and horror type comic and stuff. When we first started seeing the stuff in Swamp Thing with the guys with their heads turned around, they're coughing flies, and Abigail's cousin and some of that stuff. And now I don't know if I'm from living in rotten, dead zombie world so long, it doesn't have that kind of a terror that it did initially. And I don't know if it's just because we're exposed to so much of it. But like I said, I've enjoyed the whole thing. But part of me is really curious to see what happens almost after. I don't know if that's a detriment, if that's because the story hasn't completely captured me, or I'm just more fascinated with what's going to come afterwards. I haven't decided that yet.
Right. And so what we were talking about before we started recording, though, the end of Swamp Thing 17, basically we get and so spoilers if no one's read it, but I think by the time this comes out, it'll be a couple weeks after that. But would you say BS?
Yes.
So we get to the end of that, and Anton Arcane basically goes through a portal of some sort. And the Parliament of Decay, which, the whole, remember when the Parliament of Trees was first introduced in Swamp Thing years ago, and that was a really cool idea. And now we have the red, the green, and now we have a Parliament of Decay. So there's all these parliaments, these weird things. Might be a little too much of a good thing, but anyway, tangent. So the Parliament of Decay communicate to Swamp Thing and Animal Man, say, hey, we don't like what Arcane's doing as our avatar, so go stop him.
Right.
And they open up a portal too, and then they jump in, and so that leads into 18, issues 18 of the story. So I think.
Well, but at the end of that, more so, the end of that, it's implied that they've basically won, and Arcane, cackles and says, that's okay, I'm just going to go someplace else and do it again. And the Parliament of Decay goes, look, if you can't stop this guy, he's just going to keep repeating this over and over and over again, and we're going to be right back here again if you can't stop this. We're going to give you this one shot to go back and fix it, otherwise, whatever.
Right. And so, but remember when we first started reading the storyline, and you had the two different timelines. You had the timeline of the present, we'll call it, and Swamp Thing and Animal Man went into that hole, that portal the first time,
and a year goes by,
and then suddenly the world is transformed into Rotworld, right? And so I remember us talking about this, and we were, what's going to happen here? How are they going to reconcile these two different things, right? And so the obvious answer, of course, is that they stop it and somehow it reverses everything.
Oh God!
Right, and or something else happens, but I think that's where we're heading, directly heading to right now, with the ending events of issue 17 of Swamp Thing, and don't you feel kind of, I don't know, cheated by that?
Yes. Oh yes, I have other friends who read this series who dearly loved it, and I'm not sure they're picking up the issue 18s. Because they're so pissed off with the way, because it's just too easy. I want to believe and hope that Jeff Lemire and Scott Snyder have some magic bullet that's going to come out, and I don't mean magic bullet in a bad way, that's just going to blow our minds at how they fix this all, because that's something that has been nagging me since this whole thing started, and they went once they jump a year into the future. It's been nagging me as to how are they going to rectify this? How are they going to put it right where it doesn't just simply feel like, oh, some entity to throw them back so they didn't miss any time. There are zero consequences for their actions because they don't feel like there's any really. This all happened to the future. if they go back, they can simply do this easy thing and fix it, and there's no consequences. Mm-hmm. This whole giant, we've had, at least 10 issues of Rotworld, stuff with really no consequences. We saw this stuff happen, but it all happened in the future, and they're somehow going to go back, and it's not going to matter. Mm-hmm. And that is very disappointing. If that, to me, as a reader, if that's what it is, yeah. The whole thing feels cheap then. Mm-hmm. It's simply it's the equivalent of, it was a dream, or the whole, for those of us who are super old, the whole who shot J.R. Ewing thing, where it's all a dream.
Oh God, you just pulled out a Dallas reference. I can't believe you just did that.
I'm saying I'm old. But, that sort of a thing where it was all a dream. It didn't really happen. Baloney. And if it does that, that's going to be very, very disappointing. It doesn't feel like there's real consequences. This whole thing we read, it doesn't really matter, because they're going to go back in time and do something to fix it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but remember, though, that comics have a long history of using time travel and dream stories to tell, basically what if stories, and then everything reverts back to what it was. But you still have this interesting journey that the characters go through. So what's wrong with that?
No.
Just no.
Yep. What's wrong with it is cheap. It's cheap. So we're invested in something that feels very. I mean, okay. Maybe I wouldn't have minded that much, and maybe issue 18 will fix it all. So I mean, I could be eating my words. If they had wrung Arcanum's neck at the end of that, twisted his head off and kicked it down the corridors of the castle, then maybe that whole go back, everything's relatively fine would be fine. Mm-hmm. But we're not even getting the satisfaction of having. Did that feel like a win at the end of issue 17? Did it feel like a win to you?
Well, it was a win to a certain degree, but it was so severely undercut by what happens in the last few pages that it was irrelevant.
To me, it doesn't feel like a win. I mean, yeah, they stormed the castle, and a few of them survived storming the castle. But the ultimate thing that causes the problem didn't win. And we were just told it's going to keep going on and doing it. Mm-hmm. That doesn't feel like a win. So to me, if that's kind of left in the next issue as it being kind of, I don't know what you want to call it, prologue or whatever of this is how it all squares itself away, it's going to be incredibly dissatisfying. Like I said, I might feel different about things, and I might feel less cheated if, like I said, Animal Man and Swamp Thing land on him and just tear him apart for all the horrible stuff that he's done. And at least then you'd have the satisfaction of knowing that they won at the end, whereas it's a stalemate. You just go back to whatever, and it doesn't feel. It's not even a satisfying stalemate to me. I don't know. It feels cheap. So, like I said, I'm hoping that these two guys have some really actual great ending that they're going to be able to pull this thing off, and they might. Yeah. Right now, though, it doesn't feel good.
Yeah. Okay. So, since we're talking about the ending of Rotworld and how Scott Snyder and Jeff Lemire are navigating that, I really want to transition now to the end of Snyder's Death of the Family.
Okay.
Do you mind if we do that, or do you have anything else you want to talk about with Rotworld?
Well, the only thing with Rotworld is that there were a couple issues of, I don't know if you read Frankenstein Agent of Shade that tied into it, because Frankenstein ends up being a player in the whole Rotworld fight. And the last issue of that series, because it ended, does not tie into the Rotworld. It's not a Rotworld thing. It's like it goes back to everything just being like the way it was, kind of, but not really. In the fact that they go back, it's back to current time. They're on a mission. Frankenstein and the creature commandos are all on a mission and whatnot. And Nina, who is a person that, in the Rotworld thing, he had a relationship with. Well, he has kind of a relationship with her anyway. But in the Frankenstein Rotworld issues, I mean, she's pregnant. They've all become Frankensteins themselves. They go to this machine that turns them all into basically the equivalent of Frankenstein, because they can't be affected by the rot.
Mm-hmm.
But in this issue, the final issue, it goes back to everything's normal. They're on a normal mission doing normal things, exception of Nina saying, it felt like at one point we were closer and that there was something between us. There was something going on, but now it doesn't feel quite like that. It's something along those lines to imply that something happened and she knows that something happened, but she can't put her finger on it to know exactly what happened.
Mm-hmm.
So it just seems really weird. So I don't know if Matt Kent was when they wrote that issue, if he'd had long conversations with Lemire and Snyder to know how that ends, to know how he should be writing his thing. Just, it seemed really strange how the words that were said that implied about the whole potentially about the whole Rotworld thing. Or I'm assuming it's about the Rotworld stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Seems how it just went back to business as usual.
Well, and they also had to tie up the series because it was ending too. So
right.
So there's probably some steps that were missing along the way just to get to that end issue.
Yeah. Well, they could have ended it. They could have ended it in the Rot though. Mm-hmm. They could have ended that whole thing in Rotworld and never have gone back to the normal world with that comic book, and it probably would have been fine, in my opinion. Oh, and just as a side note, because I love Green Lantern so much. And I discovered my favorite Green Lantern. My favorite Green Lantern is Frankenstein Green Lantern.
Oh yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could get behind that thing. I could get behind that Green Lantern.
Oh my God.
Anyway. Okay, that's right. It. We can go on to Batman.
Okay, so from one Scott Snyder story ending to another. So, but in this case, we do have the actual conclusion of the story to discuss, and that's Batman 17, Death of the Family conclusion. So I heard, I mentioned the Word Balloon podcast earlier. There's another one I listen to on occasion called the Comic Vine podcast. And Scott Snyder was on that podcast talking about Death of the Family, where number 17 hadn't come out yet, but it was going to be, I think, that week. So he was being a little coy about things. But what he did talk about, and this is the reason I want to talk about these two events with you, he talked a little bit about the endings of stories, in particular his stories. And what he said specifically, well, I won't say specifically, I'm going to paraphrase him. Okay. And so, because he was asked about this, about endings, how do you end something that has so much hype to it? And his first story arc on Batman, there was a lot of hype to that. With the whole Court of Owls thing, and how it ended, and now we have this next event in the Scott Snyder Batman universe with Death of the Family. So how do you deal with endings and the hype of the story and readers' expectations and disappointments and all that stuff? Which is very much what we're doing here. We're discussing that, right? So. Mm-hmm. What he said, and again I'm paraphrasing, is that he hopes that when he, and this is just for his writing, he's not suggesting that all stories have to be like this, but for his stories, what he hopes happens is that the reader, we come to this, feeling satisfied about it. So, I'm sorry, I screwed it up already. You should feel surprised about the ending, but also satisfied. Mm-hmm. In the sense that. Yes, I wasn't expecting those particular specific things to happen, but at the same time, I should feel good about what I've read, and it's expected. Expected is the wrong word. I'm having trouble coming up with the right word about what he said, and I should have wrote this down. So I apologize. Go listen to the Comic Vine podcast where Scott Snyder is a guest, and you can hear his words specifically. But anyway, so apply that, Travis. Were you surprised and satisfied with the ending of Death of the Family?
Yes.
And in what ways? Why do you say that?
I think he delivered what he said he was going to deliver.
Which was
that by the end of that he was going to tell a horrific Joker story, and that we would, in some sense, be exploring Joker and Batman's relationship, and that that by the, and what the title says, by the end of it, they aren't the same group of people that they were before this whole thing started.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
I really enjoyed it. I thought it gave us, plenty to think about afterwards, because I don't feel like a writer needs to tell us literally everything. I think good writing is when you can write something and I can put the book down and walk away from it, and I can think about some other what ifs and possibilities that I don't have to have necessarily be told to me or spoon fed to me. I'm more than happy that they didn't actually kill anybody. And I know a lot of people are pissed off thinking that somebody should have been dead by the end of this thing.
Jason Todd.
Whoever. I don't know if it was, yeah, Jason Todd. I don't understand the obsession with thinking that somebody had to die in this thing, and that was the only way it was going to be a good comic. I don't get that at all. And I really love the whole psychology behind the Joker in this thing. Once it's all done, now that it's done, going back and looking at, why was the Joker doing what he was doing, and how much he doesn't care about some things, and it's only certain things that are important, seemingly important to him. And I think that Scott Snyder has in some ways redefined the Joker. I mean, whereas we always kind of go, well, gee, would the Joker exist if Batman didn't exist, kind of a thing. The two kind of are, kind of feed off of each other, kind of a deal. It's always been implied, but being here, it's really, it really drives home that the Joker's obsessed with Batman. It's a romance of sorts in how, he's basically, I don't think he's in love with Batman. I don't think it's a gay thing. I've heard that on the internet too, which boggles my mind. But I do think that he's in love with the idea of Batman and messing with Batman. And I think that came across really well in the story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with that, certainly. Yeah, that whole, so yeah, your comment about someone should have died or whatever, the death of the family.
Right.
I never really took that tagline to mean that someone would die in this.
Yeah, I didn't either, but a lot of people did.
Because thematically, once you get to the end of it, the very end of Batman 17, the whole idea of the death of the family is very clear what Snyder meant by that.
Yeah.
I do have issues with some of the execution, but I totally agree with you in Snyder's reinterpretation of Joker and how well that came across. A lot of that, I think, had to do too with Capullo's representation of Joker throughout this.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And the involvement of everybody in here with with all the Robins and Batgirl and Alfred too, and what Batman's keeping things from his family, what that does to the family. Right. But here's my problem. So what? Batman keeps things from. This is hard for me because we're given a Batman in the DC universe that is, more or less 5-6 years old, right? It's been talked about how he's been operating even before that, but as Batman, apparently he's only been around for 5 or 6 years, right? And in that time he's had 4 Robins. Couple that with what we know of Batman, previous to the New 52 launch, right? What kind of a person he is, what his relationship with all of these other characters are. And some of that stuff is still there, and some of it may not still be there. We don't know exactly.
Right.
And that's what's really frustrating to me, because I don't know what all applies and what doesn't.
So okay.
Oh, wait a second. So given that, I get to this story, and Joker tries to basically illuminate to his family how Batman supposedly really feels about them. And it's Joker's own twisted vision of it, so that's okay. But for them to be affected as they are because Bruce didn't tell them about certain things just seems really it falls very flat to me. Why didn't maybe Damian he might feel that way because he's the youngest and most recent Robin, but the others, especially Dick, and I want to talk about that specifically what happens at the end with Dick, but it seems like there's much to do about nothing about this story, about how it ends. Go ahead.
Well, you say so what? Well, I guess my understanding of Bruce's relationship with those people is different than your understanding of the relationship with those people.
Well, I assume so since Snyder presents it that way, but
I think that that these people believed that they had complete I can't think of the word I want to use, but that they
confidence.
That their relationship with not just Batman, their relationship with Bruce was more and is more than what Bruce's relationship is with Superman or Wonder Woman or whoever else.
Okay.
That they are family. Why do you think Bruce tried getting all of the boys together to have pictures taken? Not the picture, but the painting of them all together, because he's more than just their superheroes and their work people that work together. They are literally were family. Their relationship should be more important than that. And something this significant, it feels like it was a betray of trust, or that he doesn't trust them well enough to have given them information. And I can understand why it would be upsetting to probably Damian the least, because Damian doesn't have a life. But all those other people do have lives. They have loved ones that they need to protect and whatnot. And if there's any implication that the Joker knows literally who they really are, look what potentially happens to their loved ones and whatnot. It's so easy to target a superhero's loved ones because they can't be around all the time. And so I think that's where the huge rift comes in at, and the betrayal of having not been told that, and why that is so upsetting to them, because they all felt like they would tell basically Bruce anything, because they felt like they had that kind of relationship with him. And now they've suddenly realized that really wasn't a two-way street, and how upsetting that would be.
Okay, so a couple things then. I still don't buy that it was a two-way street with them, but based on the evidence, which is what we're actually reading here, not my trying to mesh this old universe and the new universe together. You brought up the family portrait thing. Okay, that was one instance. Yes, I would agree with that, but that's only one thing. And so my critique here, my criticism here, is that I don't think we've been shown enough of that.
Of the family.
Of this family unit. And I read most of the Batman books. There's only a couple. I don't read Red Hood.
So you're excluding everything before the New 52.
At this moment, yes.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So I'm just going by what I've read since the New 52 launched, right? I don't feel like we've been given enough of that family dynamic and that trust that you talked about for this story to really work.
Okay.
And then, oh crap, I said two things, and that was the first thing. Oh, no, I think that was it. Yeah. Okay. So the second thing was, so that whole, Joker knows their identities and Bruce didn't tell them, and that stuff. But okay, so if let me throw this out to you. So if your premise is that the family trusted Bruce and he betrayed that trust by not telling them this, he also in the same story said the Joker does not know. I'm telling you, he does not know this. Don't believe him. Don't fall into that trap. I mean, that's basically what Bruce told him in one of those issues that we read, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So if there's that trust there, why does it suddenly fall apart so easily?
Because at the same time, they just got to drop this bombshell with the fact that maybe the Joker does know. And Bruce is going by what seems like, because he's not telling them the whole story. If he would just tell them the whole story, it wouldn't be such a problem. But the fact is all he's saying is he doesn't know. Well, how do you know he doesn't know? If if there was a damn playing card stuck inside the Batcave, how the hell does he not know? Kind of a thing. The guy could have sat in front of the computers and had a heyday and know everything about everybody.
Okay, so let me ask you this then.
Mm-hmm.
If that's the case, and I can buy that from a storytelling standpoint, even though they trust him, there's this evidence in front of them that makes them doubt their mentor, their father figure. Okay.
Right.
So why didn't Batman tell him anything about that specific thing? Doesn't it seem like that it goes against the characterization that we're supposed to be buying about this family? That he did not tell them this one little tiny detail. I mean, and it really is a really minor detail in the story. We get that reveal at the end of Batman 17 about the card. Why didn't he just tell him that? When that would have been an easy thing for Batman to say, no, wait a minute, you guys are freaking out. Here's the story behind this. This is how I know he does not know. And the reason is that Bruce couldn't do that, because then the end of the story would have been ruined at that point. And I call BS, to use your phrase earlier, on the storytelling technique.
You're right. You're right. That is a good point as to they should have shown why it was that he didn't want to tell them that.
Or suggest something more than, you just got to trust me. And I realize in certain situations, we've seen that, we see that, in our own lives.
And I'm trying to remember, because I don't have those issues sitting in front of me. At the time that he's saying that, they're in a hurry to try and get to somewhere else, are they not? I mean, doesn't he need to hurry up and get off to Arkham?
But
he doesn't have time.
He
doesn't have time to tell him that story.
30 seconds to tell him.
It would take more than that.
Oh, come on.
You don't just go, oh yeah, I visited Joker in Arkham as Bruce Wayne and he ignored me. Goodbye, guys.
No, you're right. There would be more conversation. You're right, but it would only take him a minimum amount of time. Because look how long it took him to tell Alfred this at the end of the issue. It was like a few panels.
Well,
it's really easy.
Yeah, yes and no. Because he's rushing off, because at the time, it's really easy for him to just casually say it because no one's being killed at the time. Whereas to the best of his knowledge, in Arkham, all hell is breaking loose, and he needs to get there and take care of it. Because Alfred's still out there and whatnot. Mm-hmm. I understand your criticism, and that is a good point. I think there should have been, I think the answer to that is maybe there should have been more there to explain to us why he at the time didn't explain it, other than what I just said. The sense of urgency they needed to get someplace to take care of other stuff was more important than him finishing what I would say would be a very long story, because there'd be lots of questions. Alfred doesn't question near as much stuff as what that whole other group of kids would ask around the fact that he went and visited Joker, as basically exposed himself as being the Batman. Mm-hmm.
And basically, I agree with you to a certain degree on a lot of what you're saying. I think my whole problem here is that we're being given characterizations that we've not been shown to be true yet. We're just being told that they're this way, and I have a problem with that from a storytelling standpoint.
I guess, other than the fact I've got enough history reading those Bat books and those people and those characters to know they have those relationships. Because I'm not throwing out the stuff that happened before the relaunch of the 52 with Batman.
Okay.
Because they pretty much, to some degree, said large portions of that work, the timeline for Batman is jacked up. We all know it is, and it's got a lot of holes in it as far as how do you squeeze all those Robins and all that other stuff in that amount of time. But we've also basically been told Batman and Green Lantern are two characters that pretty much the stuff that happened before the 52, those two characters as a whole did not change as far as what happened in their past.
Right. Okay. So given that, then this story falls apart even more, because we've already seen the relationships, especially between Dick and Batman, be questioned like this before. So why is it such a big deal now?
Okay. Like I said, I disagree, but I don't think there's going to be a way we're going to find
common ground there.
You just don't like Scott Snyder.
I know. See, it's not that I don't like Snyder.
Back your week prior podcast, this guy beats up on him all the time. The guy nicely calls and talks to him on the phone, and beats him up.
I know. You know what though? He really has turned me around a lot on his stories. By reading Batman specifically, I've really enjoyed his characterization of Joker. I am liking certain aspects of his interpretation of Batman, and just the work that he and Capullo are doing on Batman is just, I think, really good. They're really good comics. I just have, because we open this up with, my question to you about surprise and being surprised at the ending and being satisfied, and so I read this. I did listen to that Comic Vine interview, and then I read Batman 17, and I got to the end of it, and that very last page, with him finding out one of the isotopes in the Joker toxin, right? And it's it's honium with the HA as the original element, right? And the way that Capullo does that ha 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 with that fly, because the flies have shown up throughout this entire story whenever Joker's around, so Joker's omnipresent in Batman's life, and I'm like, and it's, then it says end, and I'm like, you know what? Yeah, that works. Mm-hmm. The ending of the Death of the Family storyline works. I just have problems with some of the details of
right.
but some of those details are very important to how the story works as a whole to me, and I just have a few issues anyway. So I wanted to bring those up.
But your issues, I understand your issues. Some of the other issues I've heard from the greater comic universe that they had fits and kittens over. I don't understand. Like I said, the need for someone to have died. How many people are pissed off that it was fake stuff under the platter? It wasn't really anybody,
I'm glad you bring that
dead
up.
Or chopped up, or damn, sucks that Alfred isn't dead. Killing Alfred would just completely destroy Batman. I mean, that would just be the end of Bruce Wayne. It would just be a psychotic mess after that. I just can't imagine the character being any other way if they butchered Alfred. My one beef with the comic was Alfred, how when he comes out serving the dinner plates, he's kind of, I don't know, his character changes too radically in very few panels, and to me that's a little detail that doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I'm glad you bring up the whole platter thing, because we're reading the other Bat books, and issue 16 of all of them, I think,
serving the platter. Right?
Yeah, has that image of Joker with the platter. I'm like, holy crap, what is going on here? What is under that platter?
Yeah.
And then we get it, and it's just a ruse. And yeah. I understand that's.
Did you think it was a ruse? When you see them all sitting there and their all faces are all wrapped up?
Well, actually,
looking.
Quite honestly, I thought, are they really going to do something like this? Yeah. And
I did briefly think, okay, because there's no way they're going to leave all these characters faceless.
Exactly.
I'm thinking, oh damn, how are they going to fix those people's faces? That's hardcore.
Right. Or and if it's not all of them, maybe one of them, maybe because I do remember seeing one of the solicitations for Red Hood.
Right.
And I thought, well, maybe he got it.
One of them's real, and the rest of them are fake.
Yeah. But it was just, I don't know. A lot of this is a lot of feint, a lot of misdirection, and
that makes it fun read.
And yes, it does. But at the same time, when you got to be careful, if you're a magician and you do a trick and people don't feel satisfied with the trick, right, and I kind of feel that way.
So you're saying now if they because he's going to go big, he says every story arc is going to be he's shooting for the moon, because he's not going to just do fluffy in between stuff because he doesn't know how long he's going to be the character, so he's going to go for the moon,
Yeah.
which I appreciate the hell out of that. It just means that the entire thing he's going to do, it's going to be the biggest roller coaster he can create,
Sure.
which is fine by me. That you think that because this was a fake out, that now people are not going to be as invested or wrapped up in whatever the next story is. If the Riddler has them in some sort of predicament, of course, they always get out of it because that's comic books. I mean, so to be suckered by it to some degree is whatever. But do you think people are going to be less engrossed and less wrapped up in it because they know that it's going to all be smoke and mirrors at the end of the day?
I think that's Scott Snyder should have a very real concern about that. Yes.
That he's not going to be able to keep topping himself or whatever.
Well, not. I mean, you can always top yourself in some way, but
always comic. That's how all comic books are, though. So why is there an extra level of criticism on this one based on that? Because
he's the one out there saying, "Hey, I'm putting 150% on this, and I'm going for the moon." Well, is he actually doing it?
I think so.
Okay.
But then I drink the cider Kool-Aid then, I guess. Oh, that's not true though, because that's not true because I'm not happy with the whole Swamp Thing. So we'll see where that goes.
Yeah. All right. Well, I tell you what, I mean, obviously we haven't read Swamp Thing and Animal Man 18, so we haven't got the end of Rotworld, but based on what I have read and comparing it to The Death of the Family, I got a much better read out of and am much more satisfied out of the Batman story.
Just as a side note, have you read Batman and Robin number 17? It takes place after the death of the family.
No, I haven't gotten to that yet.
I love that issue.
Okay, I still have half of 2 weeks ago comics and then all of last week's comics to read.
The story in it is it deals with it. It deals with it in a way, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and okay, so I'm glad you bring that up, because I want to talk about the thing at the end between them. But yeah, that's quite honestly, I am looking looking forward to the aftermath of this more than the actual end of this storyline, because I talked about character and development and whatnot earlier. This is a prime example of what I want more of. I want to understand what this relationship is between Batman and the rest of his family, how these people are reacting, why they're reacting this way, and what he's going to do about it. So to me, what I would like to see Snyder do is, like I'm the writer here, pull back from this, these big grandiose ideas and focus on the characters and their relationships for, at least a few issues before he gets to the next big go for the moon story.
Right.
Well,
I agree. If you don't, I mean, I don't know if the whole thing's going to be that, the next issues are going to be just ramped up, fast-paced craziness. Because you're right. If you don't lay the groundwork, this kind of stuff, and I think you're saying that they didn't lay enough groundwork for the death of the family to have the impact that you thought it should have had. Mm-hmm. You're right. If they don't lay enough of that groundwork, whatever happens next with the Riddler stuff could be, weak or a shadow of what it could be if you don't put that stuff in there, if you don't have that character stuff in there.
He's got to let the characters and the story breathe a little bit.
Right.
If it's constantly this highly ramped up situation, then I don't know. I think the overall story, the quality of the comic itself suffers a tad.
Mm-hmm. Now, see, just as from prior reading of his work back in Detective before the 52, he wrote I'm trying to think if it was 2 or 3 arcs, and those arcs had an overreaching arc, so it gave room for the big picture to breathe in amongst the other stuff that was going on. He'd be working on one case or whatever, and there'd be this kind of other little trickle of stuff going along the whole way. And so when after you'd read this length of work, you could see this bigger thing happening and whatnot that I really appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
And he had those, and in that he had those character moments. The time he was writing Dick as Batman, obviously, but it had its moments and whatnot. So I guess right now I still have faith in the fact that, he says the next thing, he's just going to go right into the next thing. But I don't think it's literally, issue 18 is going to have him, up to his eyeballs in Riddler stuff. I think he understands that he has to tell the story that's in between that stuff that's going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But,
okay, so we should move on. But one more thing I wanted to bring up real quick. Like I said, I've been touching on this. I want to talk about the end where, Bruce basically wants the family together, I guess, to talk to them. Mm-hmm. And basically they're like, I got something better to do. And all of them do that. But what I really enjoyed about this, and here I'm getting exactly what I've been complaining about, right? These character moments between Bruce and somebody else, and so everybody else either left a message, texted him, or whatever, but Dick actually calls him, and I absolutely love. I'm a big Dick Grayson fan, and the relationship between Batman and the former Robin, it's always been something I've really responded to in all the years that I've been reading comics. And so to have Dick actually call him to tell him that he, he's not coming. And then, he also says, because Bruce asks him, well, first of all, so Dick calls him and is about ready to tell him he's not coming, but Bruce says, it's all right, I understand.
Right.
And there's actually a lot of weight to those words. And I really hope, again, I'll say it again, but I really hope Snyder actually follows up on that. But then Bruce asked Dick, what did Joker say to you in the dark? And Dick's like, it doesn't matter. And Bruce starts to say, look, I'm sorry. And then Dick just says, I know you are. And he says, I'll see you around, Bruce. And just, so that's 3 panels. And those 3 panels said so much more to me about those characters than the entire book. And so I was complaining before about Snyder and his his effort, and yet here I am. I do want to call attention to it. I do recognize the talent that's there and the level of good writing that is in this book. So there you go. I don't want to end on a bad note with Scott Snyder. So let's transition to the other thing, because Scott Snyder is going to be at Emerald City Comicon this year.
Dang straight. I got a stack of books for him to sign.
And I really do want to go up to him and get something signed by him and say thank you for the work that he's doing, and not just the work, but to tell him that I really appreciate his connection to his fans. Because the 2 episodes ago, when I threw in that the voicemail from him, that really, more than anything he's done in comic work, that little thing that took him 30 seconds,
right,
at most, that really made an impression upon me. You've been touting his work for a few years now to me, and I've been slow to respond. Coming around to Scott Snyder's work, but his commitment and his enthusiasm for the work that he does, and just how he's really trying to connect to the fans about that says a lot to me too. So anyway, so that'll be the Emerald City Comicon 2013. That's March 1st through the 3rd at the Washington State Convention Center in beautiful Seattle, Washington, where it hardly rains at all. And actually, that's quite true. I mean, it does rain there, but people think that it rains all the time there. It actually doesn't.
No.
So anybody who's listening to this who happens to be going to Emerald City Comicon, let me know. Let Travis know if you're going to be there. We'd love to meet up with you, say hi. But let's talk about Emerald City directly. Travis, what are you most looking forward to?
God, I don't know. there's a ton of stuff. I looking over it, every year there's always a few a few creators that I'm kind of excited to see or whatever, or get a commission from, or whatever the case may be. But this year, the list of people that I am actually interested in, I read their stuff, I enjoy their stuff and whatnot, seems very, very long. Like I said, normally it's a half a dozen people that I'm excited to go see, and then but I enjoy talking and seeing what all is there. But this year there's like, I don't know, I normally bring with me maybe at most 20 books to have signed.
Jeez, 20
maybe.
books. Yeah, how many do you have now?
I've pared it down to around 60 books.
Holy crap.
And I got to pare it down some more, but it's like, oh man, I want to get this signed, but I want to have that signed too. And like in the case of Scott Snyder, of course I want Batman #1 signed because of course it's Batman #1. I've got some of the detective comics that I'd like to have him signed, because I have one that he did an arc called Skeleton Key with Francisco Faccaravella. Yeah. And I've got Francisco signed it last year, so I'd really like to have Scott sign it this year, so I have both of the creators that worked on the book sign it, because that, to me, that makes the book really cool. I want him to sign my Severed #1, so I can say, look, I'm not just reading Batman, I'm reading some of your other stuff too, kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. But I just and I'm really excited to get to meet him and talk to him, because like I said, he seems so fan enthusiastic, and the fact that it wasn't that long ago he was one of us, to me, I guess he's not jaded by the comic book industry yet or whatever. That just makes me excited to meet him. I'm really amped to get to actually meet Fiona Staples. I've been a fan of hers for a very long time. Not just the Saga stuff, but the Saga stuff is so awesome. So I'm looking forward to getting to actually meet her and say, hey, been a fan for a long time. I was commenting on your message things, way back, but yeah, there's just going to be a ton of creators that I'm really excited to actually get to just see. And I'm really excited. I think the panels this year should be really great. All the companies have really interesting people. They're going to be at the, at the cons. So I'm excited about that. Kind of surprised in one way. There are a couple creators that are normally always at Emerald City Comicon that I don't see going to be there, and I was kind of surprised at this year that they aren't going to be there. Ed Brubaker seems to always be there. He's not going to be there this year. Bendis isn't going to be there either.
Right. Yeah.
And they're both local guys, so I kind of just assumed that they were going to be there, and they're not. So yeah, I was kind of surprised by that. But
yeah, everything you've said so far, I totally agree with, and how cool it's going to be, especially for the people that you mentioned specifically. But other people that are going to be there, Neil Adams is going to be there.
Yeah, huge.
Legendary creator. And it's funny, I'm looking at the special guest page at the emeraldcitycomicon.com, and it says, to get your pre-order Neil Adams sketch, contact this person, blah, blah, blah. And he's the only person that's listed on this page that has something like that.
Yeah.
Wait, but it's Neil Adams, right?
Neil Adams is a business, yeah.
Let's see, who else is
Chris Claremont.
Claremont, yes, exactly.
That guy basically, to a large degree, you have to say, probably informed a lot of our comic book reading. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was on X-Men for like 17 years or something like that?
17-year run on Uncanny X-Men, yeah.
And we all read those books, whether you collected them or not, right? I mean,
yeah.
At least
I think you collected them and I read yours.
Yeah, I mean, so and the Uncanny X-Men and the Teen Titans, those two comics really kind of played off of each other, mm-hmm. to a large degree. I mean, those are just, for us anyway, at the age that we were, I think that those, between that and like I said, and Teen Titans, those were huge books in our lives as youth readers. So yeah, I still do not know what I'm going to take with me to attempt to get signed by Chris Claremont. I just don't know. There's too much. There's just too much that I don't know.
And let's see, this other people I just want to mention, real, kind of big names, at least from my perspective. We have a lot of the newer talent, I'll say, is going to be here, but some of the distinguished talent, like like Claremont and Neil Adams. Jerry Conway is going to be there.
Yeah.
He wrote a lot of stuff back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
You remember those oversized, those tabloid, not tabloid, I don't know if they're tabloid, but the oversized comics that they did, Superman and Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
He wrote the first one,
Right.
the first collaboration between Marvel and DC. He wrote. I have that on my shelf. It's not great condition, but I'm seriously thinking about taking that and having him sign that.
Yeah.
Let's see who else you mentioned. Claremont. Oh gosh, Garth Ennis is going to be there Saturday and Sunday. Garth Ennis.
I'm not sure how. That's gonna be a crazy line, isn't it?
Oh my God!
That's my worry. Is I'm thinking, okay, whose line do I get to first? Because which line is going to be the longest to stand?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Let's see here. I'm just quickly going down the list. Mike Grell, Travis.
Oh yeah. I've got my Green Arrow comics ready.
You got your Longbow Hunters to have him sign?
Oh yeah.
Gosh.
It's like Matt Wagner, isn't he gonna be there?
Matt Wagner, that's right. I haven't got that far, but yeah, Matt Wagner. I was like, oh my God. I think I have an old Grendel issue from the early days of Grendel before it became a thing. I have that, so I might bring that for him.
I'm bringing my Sandman Mystery Theater to have him sign.
Oh right. Well, yeah. I mean, it's not just Grendel, of course, but Matt Grendel's done a lot of good stuff over the years. My good friend Barry Kitson will be there, and I mentioned that I in the episode from last year where I talk about Emerald City Comicon last year. I told the story with my wife who was there about getting a sketch from him because he gives free sketches. The only caveat being you have to stay there while he's sketching because he wants to show you the work. He wants to show you how he does it and what goes into it and all that stuff. And my wife was gracious enough to stand in that line for me.
Yeah.
So it's really a sketch for her, but I have it hanging up on my wall. Anyway, he's going to be there.
Yeah. Mike Mignola is going to be there also. I think this is the only con he goes to. I think now.
Really?
I think so. I mean, I guess don't quote me on that for 100%, but I think that this is the. I remember reading something that said he was pairing his cons way back, and that this is one of the ones he was definitely coming to.
I was going to mention him too when I got to him. Ron Mars is going to be there. Tony Moore. Do you remember if Tony Moore? I'm sorry. I said Tony Moore. I meant Terry Moore.
Terry Moore. Yeah, Tony Moore is going to be there, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Scratch that. Forget I mentioned Tony Moore. Send your complaints to Travis at. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey.
No. Anyway, Terry Moore is going to be there. Do you remember if he was there the last few years that we've gone to Emerald City Comicon? I don't think he has.
I thought he was there. What, 2 years ago? Maybe not.
Okay. Anyway, I can't. He's one of the ones I really want to meet. I love that guy's work. Let's see here. Denny O'Neil is going to be there.
Yeah.
Oh my God. You take your Batman stuff from the Denny O'Neil, Neil Adams era and have them both sign it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Or the Green Arrow, Green Lantern.
Exactly. Stuff. Yeah.
Holy crap. Yeah, I know. That's some of those people that's just like, what do you make? I mean, he was such a huge editor over so much stuff that is huge.
He was editor of the Batman line for a long time.
Yeah. Like I said, some of these people, like I said, are overwhelming. Their breadth of stuff that was huge for me and still is. There are some creators that it's like really easy for me to go, if it's George Perez or Marv Wolfman, those guys, for me it's Teen Titans. I know it's going to be, that's what's going to be there, and I know specifically what issues they're going to be, that kind of thing. Some of these other guys, it's like, oh man, I just don't know. There was so much stuff that.
Let's see, James Robinson, for any Earth 2 fans out there like me.
Yep.
He'll be there, but he was there, I think, a couple years ago.
Yeah, he was there the first year we went. First year we went to it, he was there.
Yeah, he was interesting.
He's fun.
But since
Well,
then,
there's
I've become a real
the
fan of
panels.
his.
I think these panels should be pretty awesome. With the amount of creators they have here of both, like the big two and some of the image people are going to be there. Or not. There's going to be some great panels. I mean, because you look at like DC, for instance, you got the Scott Snyders, you got Gail Simone, you got some of these people who actually, okay, especially in the case of Scott Snyder, he influences a large portion of the DC universe right now with the Batman stuff and whatnot. Those will be fun people to see. Rick Remender's going to be there. Marvel type people. I may actually go to some Marvel panels now. That in the past I tended to kind of avoid those. It could be. Yeah, there's going to be some.
So one thing I wanted to mention too. So we have a lot of great talent coming, but another podcast I listened to had, and this is Comic Geek Speak. They had Jim DeMonakis on there, who is the con. The head guy at the con. He created the con, he runs the con, and so he was on there talking about it. So Travis, you've seen the show floor, but just to let people know,
holy crap,
they've doubled the size from last year.
What's the whole con? I mean, it's the whole convention center.
Basically, he's taken over the whole damn thing this year. So what was it? How many? 65,000 people? Isn't that? Do you remember what the number was last year? It was like
it was crazy. I know that it got so full that they literally weren't letting people in. The fire marshals.
At one point, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, on Saturday.
Yeah, so imagine now it being twice as big. I mean, yeah, he's expanding the space, but that just means more people can come.
Right.
Right. So it was elbow to elbow in a lot of places, especially on the main floor. To try and get through there was it took a long time to get from one end of the floor to the other. So I can't imagine what it's going to be like this year. On top of that, which I thought was really cool,
it's going to be awesome.
It is.
That's hard.
So last year they had these spotlight panels on specific creators, and they're doing the same thing this year, but they're doing it in one spot, so that's nice, because before it was here and there. It was hard to know where to go. But so they're doing their what they call their Secret Origins Spotlight Lounge things, and every one of them is about a different creator. So that's nice. And on top of that, so Emerald City. So one thing I've noticed the few years that we've gone. Is this the third year or the fourth year we've gone?
Fourth year.
This will be the fourth year. Okay. Yeah. So one of the things that's really nice about Emerald City is that a lot of people bring their kids to the show. Yep. And Jim has, I call him Jim like I know the guy.
That's funny.
They did basically a kids portion of the show. So there's a bunch of panels that's dedicated to things that young readers might be interested in. Including, and this brings out the young kid in me, they actually have a real astronaut coming.
Yeah.
From
Isn't
NASA.
That cool? Isn't that cool? It's awesome.
It's for the kids part of the show, but I think I'm going to go because I want to meet an astronaut.
That's right. He's literally been in outer space. Yes.
Yeah. So I think that's really cool that they're doing that. I hope that ends up being a real successful part of the show. Mm-hmm. There's. What are some of the panels that you're looking forward to specifically?
Well, I always go to the the DC panels as far as they always the first day they have kind of an opening thing. They kind of wet their whistles to what they think is coming, and then usually on Saturday they have another one where they more talk about stuff. I'm hoping this year we'll get a little more into stuff because the New 52 is done and passed as far as it being something that makes everybody angry. Well, I'm sure people are still angry about it, but hopefully it won't be the subject of conversation. It won't be an entire year of, you'll have to be Flashpoint. So I'm looking for those to see what those are going to be. I'm really looking forward to, I haven't looked through yet. I'm assuming there's going to be a Vertigo panel. There usually is. I want to make sure I hit that this year.
I don't know. Seeing one. You keep talking. I'll look.
See, I haven't seen it yet. I haven't gone through completely. I'm waiting for I Twittered Emerald City Comicon a couple days ago and asked them if they were putting out an app of the show. That's the easiest way for me to keep track of what I want to go to and what time they start, and that sort of thing. I can set alarms for myself on my phone. So somebody do. I'm gonna be bummed if there isn't a Vertigo panel. I was hoping there'd be one because oh dear,
there isn't. I just searched for Vertigo on the programming page, and there is no Vertigo panel.
Yeah, see that just
But that makes sense because Karen Berger's no longer in charge of Vertigo. And she was always. So I know what you're saying, but she was the voice of Vertigo at these things, and she's not there.
They hired a new voice. They hired three of them.
I know.
I think one of them would show up. So that's disappointing to me because that just to me makes it feel more and more like a death nail for Vertigo, and that's why I was hoping there'd be a Vertigo panel because I wanted to ask some kind of.
Well, maybe that's why they're not doing it because you get the outpouring of rage and frustration from.
It wasn't rage. I simply want to know where they see themselves going. Because they've changed a lot of their format of how they operate and what they're putting out for books. I'm past the Hellblazer. Pissed off. It's like I'm going to go there and the people who are going to that panel are going to be able to fix that decision. That decision was made by, if Dan, Didio shows up, that's a whole other can of worms. Then I can bring in the rage, and, because there's somebody who's actually influences how all that stuff works. But these poor people, I'm not going to pick on some editor of, I'm not going to pick on the editor of the Superman books as to why the Legion book sucks because he's got nothing to do with that. So,
there's going to be some fans out there that do
something
similar.
Guarantees he's going to show up in a Flash costume and go, "Where's Wally West?"
Where's Wally? Well, and I imagine a lot of people are going to be asking about Vertigo too during the DC panels and.
Oh, I plan on that because there isn't a Vertigo panel.
Yeah.
But
I mean, not something like you were saying about so what is the approach?
Right.
What's the future of Vertigo? They're going to be they're going to unleash their nerd rage on these people, and that's not fair.
Let's see. I want to make sure that I go to where is it at? I'm going to make sure that on Saturday at 3:00 I want to go to the Kirby Crackle acoustic set.
Oh, you better.
The only problem is that it's going on at the exact same time the DC Comics, the New 52 is running.
Yep, and I'm okay with that. Usually I'd be like, oh man, I got to go to this, but I really want to go to that, and I'm okay with missing that one.
I guess what's going to happen is I'm going to go to the one on Friday, the DC one on Friday.
Yeah.
And if it's the same thing that it always is, where they don't tell us anything, and they basically kind of blow us off to some degree, the chances are greater that I go to Kirby Crackle.
Yeah.
So.
Well, except here, I expect them to do that again because that's pretty much what they've done the last 3 years that we've gone. They haven't really given much of anything.
Right. That's kind of what I expect. So when I get there and they do that, I won't be quite so upset as I have been in the year past. But I can always kind of hope.
See that? Yeah. But that's why I like going to like the Image panel and the other publisher panel.
I will definitely hit the Image panel. Like I said, I haven't really gone through all the panels yet to see what conflicts with what, to where I have to make a decision on what I want to go see. I want to definitely hit the Image panel. I kind of always like to hit the Oni Press panel because those are panels where they tell you about what's coming up and whatnot. I like the more casual panels than the structured panels because sometimes the creators will talk about stuff that's more interesting than if it was a structured thing where their editors are standing there and they can't open their mouths because they might say something they're not supposed to. I always love James Robinson if you can get him on a panel because he always seems to talk more than he should, and so you always
you always get those spoilers.
You get the spoilers from him, not spoilers in what Rex comics. You get spoilers as far as
stuff they haven't announced,
stuff they haven't revealed yet. Yeah, so that it's always fun if you can get on one of on one of his things and whatnot. Like I said, I think this year I'm going to go to some of the Marvel panels. In the past, I haven't. I'm reading a lot more Marvel books this year and have some investment in some of those books, so I might be excited to go see those. I'm not sure about the Emerald City Comicon Spotlight things where the Secret Origins because it doesn't tell you who any of those Secret Origins are.
Well, no, they do. If you go to
you can click on them.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that. So the first one right off the bat on Friday is Chris Claremont.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, see, I'm gonna have to flip through these because I didn't do that, so I don't. Jerry Conway. You can spend the entire con just sitting in.
Pretty much. And see, and that's the thing, because I mentioned they doubled the size of the actual area in which the con inhabits. But I don't know. I'd have to go back and look, but it seems like they doubled the size in terms of the panels too. There's so much going on. There's no way we can go to all this stuff and be satisfied because there's just too many things going on at the same time.
Well, plus the fact when are you going to get to actually, walk the artists? Because that's my favorite thing to do, quite frankly, is to walk the artist aisles and just check out what's there.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you really get to talk to, potentially talk to the creator.
That's right.
Get stuff signed. I don't have plans to get any con sketches this year.
What?
Yeah, I know. But I'm more focused on, can I get some original pages that I might be interested in? And I have some other stuff I have some other stuff planned out that I'm not going to 100% talk about. I don't know if they're going to work out the way I want them to as far as my YouTube channel and stuff that I'm putting on it while the con is going on.
Oh, okay.
I'm hoping to blog some more stuff from there than what I have before. Yeah. And I have some other things that I'm not 100% sure that I'm going to be able to pull off. So I don't want to say I'm going to do this and then not be able to do it.
Well, since you mentioned it, I will say, if people are interested to read about what I find interesting, and I'm sure you'll do this too, Travis. But they can always follow us on Twitter, because that'll be probably the main thing. I will try to post some stuff. I do plan, and I did this last year, but I didn't. Because I feel weird taking pictures, but and I'll explain why in a second. But I plan on taking pictures of things at the con, the cosplayers, because there's amazing cosplay that's there, the stuff that people put together to dress up as their favorite comic book character or gaming character or movie character or whatever. It's just impressive what they do and how they do it, and they're constantly being. And you remember the Sky Bridge area? Travis, that's usually where a lot of the cosplayers kind of walk around.
Didn't they map out a place for them then?
What's that?
Didn't they actually create a place for them to be this year?
If they did, I'm not seeing it, because the Sky Bridge actually has booths.
Yeah, that freaks me out. That's normally where you get into the place.
Yeah, and that area on the other side of the Sky Bridge, which really was just a walkway to get from the panel, one panel room to another, that's filled with exhibitors and other tables. So I'm like, what? This is just crazy. How many people are there going to be there, and not attending, but actually being part of the con in some way? It's just I don't know. I'm really concerned that we can barely walk around in the place, let alone not being able to attend certain panels at certain times, because there's just so much stuff going on. And that's not even counting, Travis, the celebrity guests that are going to be there. They're going to draw a larger audience, or not I won't say larger, but more people to the con, because they're well known. Like Patrick Stewart's going to be there, and
the car.
I should have said Sir Patrick Stewart. Gillian Anderson from X-Files is going to be there. God, who else? Chris Sarandon, if people remember him from Princess Bride primarily. Christopher Lloyd is going to be there. Walter Koenig from Star Trek. Carrie Fisher.
Yeah.
Dirk Benedict. I know he's not a big name, but for those of us who grew up watching the original Battlestar Galactica, that's kind of a big deal. Oh, I guess maybe the younger listeners may know him from A-Team. Probably more, because that show had a little more success than Battlestar Galactica, but yeah,
Battlestar Galactica was ahead of its time.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just all these amazing. Oh, and I forgot Adam West and Burt Ward.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Billy Williams. Right? The perennial favorite of mine, Will Wheaton, will be there, along with Felicia Day. So it's just all these people. There's some people from Walking Dead as well coming, that will be huge. I can't believe all the people that are going to be going to the con for this, plus people going for the comic book stuff, plus the cosplayers, who knows what else. All that extra stuff is just going to be crazy, crazy, but it's going to be fun. Oh, so anyway, like I said, you can follow us along on Twitter. I'm sure I'll have information in the show notes. Watch the blog longboxreview.wordpress.com. And Travis, you can if you let me know what's going on with what you're doing, I can post that too, so that people can get to know that. Anything else we want to talk about regarding Emerald City Comicon? We are running a bit long here. Yeah, we're just under 2 hours talking about all this stuff. So.
Nope. I mean, I could go on and on about how excited I am about.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, the anxiety over not knowing exactly where we're around at, and I'll get past that once I'm there and see what really is. But it's gonna be awesome, as it always is.
And you're bringing your family, right? As usual.
Yeah. It's the family event.
Yeah.
I won't let my kids skip school for no reason except for comic books. See?
It's the important things in life, Travis.
Well, last year it was great because last year it landed on spring break because it was the end of March.
Oh yeah.
This year to the beginning of March, which I prefer it at the end of March because the beginning of March weather is more of an issue for us to get across the passes and that sort of thing.
Yeah. I wish he would Jim would have it later in March too. But anyway, and it doesn't seem like he goes back and forth every year.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's him or if it's just the schedule at the Washington State Convention Center. I imagine it's
the Convention Center. Yeah.
Yeah. But it'd be nice if it were actually, set every year. But I understand. You gotta do what you gotta do. All right. I guess that's it, Travis. Boy, we talked a lot about various things. This is a good episode. I especially enjoyed our conversation about Batman. Our lively discussion. Because what the people don't know, because I don't know we've done that a whole lot actually on the show, but you and I talk offline about these things, and you and I don't always agree about stuff, but we're always I always enjoy talking with you. It's nice to have a differing opinion.
Oh, definitely. I'm open into hearing. I mean, if you would have come on and said, "Oh, I hated it because someone didn't die," I would have been very disappointed. But actually having this is where I see this fail. That's awesome. I love those conversations. Mm-hmm. So more of it.
All right, let's get out of here, Travis. Go have some lunch.
Okay.
If you want to leave feedback about this episode, about if you think I'm crazy for not liking Scott Snyder's Death of the Family, let me know at longboxreview@gmail.com. Go to the blog, leave some posts there. You can leave voicemail at my voicemail number. Scott Snyder did it, so can you. And that number is 208-953-1841. Okay, Travis, that's it. Let's get out of here. Thank you very much. And I will see you at the Emerald City Comicon in just a few short days.
Awesome.
Thanks for listening.